I don't really know how to start off this segment, if I gotta be honest. I can tell you that Syracuse destroyed and dominated Clemson 34-21, but I feel like that's such a redundant way of looking at it, such a simplistic way. This signifies something so much bigger, but I don't know how to quantify it. Syracuse was an 18.5 point underdog at one point. It closed at 17.5. Syracuse covered it. It was clear they were going to cover it early in the game. Before we resume this segment, some great and free ways to support this channel are liking the video, watching it all the way through, commenting your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your analysis, sharing the video, subscribing to the channel, and also hitting the notification bell. That way you can get notified when we go live or release new content. And don't just hit the notification bell for the channel. That's very helpful. But what's also helpful and free and useful to you, if you are a diehard fan of a specific team and want to get notifications whenever I make content about a specific team, not just my content in general, well, we have playlists for every Power 4 college football team, so the notification bell in any of those playlists you are interested in. If you want to support the channel financially, there are ways to do so in the description, and you can sign up as a paid member. Fran Brown was aggressive. Fran Brown is someone who I viewed since middle of last year. In fact, I think since the preseason. I thought that with him being from the Kirby Smart coaching tree and how Georgia's secondaries functioned under him, I always thought that he was at least going to be an okay head coach. Then as the year went on last year, the portal moves he made panned out, I thought, okay, yeah, that guy's a good coach. And he is. He's a master motivator. His players don't quit. And what I love about Brown is he's a schemer, too. Last year's game against Miami showed that. This year's game against Clemson showed that. I think how they were able to score on Tennessee's defense a bit when Tennessee was healthier than they were against Georgia. And look, Syracuse does not have the offensive talent Georgia does. I think that came up too. He's a schemer. He absolutely is. Oh, the way they beat Georgia Tech last year too. Because Brent Key is a wonderful coach. Brown is not just a master motivator, not just a disciplinarian, not just someone who the locker room loves. He's a schemer. You can see it in him that he's learned under Kirby Smart, truly. But I did not think they had the roster to do much this year. In fact, after that UConn game, I kind of thought that they would have a losing record, and they still could. I don't know the health status of Angeli, but I imagine Angeli is, with that injury and what I heard people say about it, he could be out for the year. And if you're starting Ricky Collins, I have a hard time seeing you even get to 5 wins, let alone 6. But you're already at 3-1, 1-0. Your one loss was to a Tennessee team that is a college football playoff contender, an SEC contender. Yup, he tore his Achilles. Just read that from Pete Thamel. That was 4 minutes ago. So I wouldn't have even known that if I had done research. But now that it's official, live, Angeli's sadly out for the year, be praying for him. That's so tough to go through. I hope that he heals, and I hope that Ricky Collins has success. But getting back to Clemson here, I had Clemson as a playoff team, as an ACC champion, as a 13-0 team preseason. I was not as high on Clemson as so many others in the business were, because I did think to myself in the back of my head that they weren't going to jump from just a top 15 team to a top 2 team. I thought that was kind of going to be hard, especially since they didn't have a Penn State, Georgia, Texas, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon level staff. I think those are the best staffs in America, and Miami's could be in play there. But I didn't think Miami's would be top 6, top 7 preseason. Those other teams I did. Clemson, I didn't think preseason had that level staff, and I certainly don't think they have that right now. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment to come out after a 1-2 start, to have that rant after the Georgia Tech game and after the LSU game and the press conferences, to be talking about how the fans aren't grateful, how I can leave and go somewhere else. And by halftime, it's evident that this is going to be a close game for the rest of the matchup. It's pathetic. You're 1-3, 0-2 in ACC play, and with how you've been playing through 4 games, this isn't flukish. North Carolina's not a guaranteed win. Boston College isn't a guaranteed win. SMU, dare I say it right now, SMU could be favored to beat you when you play them. I mean, SMU lost to TCU and Baylor, and I think TCU and Baylor are both at least, above average good teams. Duke is not a guaranteed win. As of right now, I would say Florida State will beat you. Certainly should be favored. That's an interesting tournament. That is something I never saw coming. And it's honestly hilarious and kind of awesome because of how unpredictable it is. I would argue as of right now, the ACC is actually just as unpredictable as the Big 12. Maybe even more so. Not at the top, because Miami's a top contender and they're still there. But last year, Florida State was the preseason favorite. Dead by September. Clemson, they're dead. Unless Miami loses 2 games and Clemson wins out and some other things happen, they're dead. Dead. Just so crazy. So crazy what's happened in the ACC and really across college football through 4 weeks now. Louisville should beat you. Furman you'll beat. South Carolina, both of these teams have regressed from last year, but since it's on the road and Sellers as of right now looks better than Klubnik, I would say that South Carolina should win that game. This is just, it's so bad when you have your quarterback throwing it 60 times, and this isn't the 2010s. This is 2023 with more NFL clock rules, so the game is compressed. When he's throwing it 60 times, and you've only ran it for 22 times, and the only reason you average 6.4 yards per carry is because Syracuse's defense isn't that good, and you abandoned the run late, so now when you run, the defense isn't expecting it. You can't run the ball, and you can't really pass it either, even with your receivers healthy. There's something wrong internally there, and I think it all falls on Dabo Swinney. You sacked Syracuse 3 times. They couldn't run the ball all that effectively at times. Though I thought for the defensive line Clemson has, they ran the ball effectively overall. Just not all the time. Their power rushing success rate was a 0%. So when it mattered, Clemson could stop the run in terms of when Syracuse needed to convert. But on standard downs, Syracuse was running the ball all over Clemson, which is crazy. And Angeli was making some wonderful throws, and his receivers were high-pointing the football. Jonte Cook, talk about a comeback story. Jonte Cook is working out at Syracuse. I don't know exactly what happened at Texas, what went wrong there, but he's playing well. His 234 receiving yards and a touchdown so far, and he has eligibility remaining. I mean, he's looking good so far. This is the difference between Fran Brown and his staff and Dabo Swinney and his staff, is that Fran Brown gets the most out of his players. That's what he does. He gets the most out of his players, and his coordinators do too. His staff does. And Clemson just doesn't. I mean, talk about Fran Brown, Jeff Nixon, Mike Johnson, and Elijah Robinson. Talk about that staff. They have done a good job. They get stuff out of their players. Man, that is a staff where meritocracy won. That's what that is. Fran Brown runs an operation where if you don't fit the merit requirement, if you don't work hard, if you don't win, if you're not a winner mentally, you're not there. And the epitome of that, I think, is how he handled Trevor Pena leaving, where Pena's a winner. Pena's going to do well at Penn State. He's done well so far this year. But he thought in his mind, look, I can't afford to pay you that much. I can't do it. I have to focus on my team. The team is famously said by Bo Schembechler. And look, Fran Brown embodies the team and putting the team first and getting the most out of his players and squeezing every ounce of talent that he can out of his team. And Dabo Swinney just doesn't do that. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna pull this up. It's from a spreadsheet that I use to make college football predictions. I predict records. I sort players through it. It's something really interesting. Something really interesting that I charted preseason, and I think is going to age beautifully. Let me see here. Let me see. Oh, yeah. I had Dabo Swinney outside of the top 15 of coaches entering the year. Now, the reason I picked him to go 13-0 is my coaching rankings were based on what I thought. They weren't based on projections. They were just based on how I thought they had done really the past 3-4 years. And I thought that Swinney did a pretty poor job. Fran Brown, I had barely missing the top 25. So I had these coaches pegged far closer together than almost any, if any, national analyst would have. Honestly, after yesterday, Fran Brown is a better head coach than Dabo Swinney. I would so much rather. I'm a Michigan fan for context. If tomorrow, between Michigan, I had to hire Fran Brown or Dabo Swinney, give me Fran Brown in a snap. Easily. Without question, I would rather take Fran Brown than Dabo Swinney. He's a fantastic coach. I've already talked about that, so we don't really need to get more into that. Clemson's run is over, and this is what I want to focus on a little bit more of to close out this segment here. Clemson can't do anything offensively. And honestly, with how LSU's offenses looked, with how Georgia Tech likes to play ball, and after yesterday, I think Clemson's defense is overrated too. The same issues that existed last year exist here. And look, I think Tom Allen's a good DC, but I never thought of him as a great DC. And if I did, and I may have after that Clemson game, I overreacted. Preseason, I had him as not even a top 25 DC. I had him as like maybe fringe top 25, certainly top 30, like a top half DC, but I never viewed him as a top 10 DC. Just with how he handled that Penn State defense last year, a top 10 DC with that Penn State defense, you beat Notre Dame even if with your wide receiver issues, and you beat Oregon. Ohio State's different, but he handled that defense poorly at times last year, and I think refused to make adjustments at different points. I think he's a good person. I think he's an above-average good DC. He's not what Clemson needs, though. And I also think some of the talent Clemson has is overrated. I think that they have some developmental issues there, like T.J. Parker, Peter Woods, all these fantastic NFL players. I would take Indiana's roster over Clemson's right now in a heartbeat. Cignetti in Indiana, and they have a blue chip ratio, I believe, of 0, or at least it's less than 10%, and Clemson's is in the 50s. Their starters are almost exclusively blue chip players. Indiana right now would destroy Clemson. They beat them 70-0. And Cignetti would make a statement. He'd be coaching throughout the whole game. He wouldn't be complaining at the refs. He wouldn't be complaining to the press conference. He'd be complaining to his players, saying, do better. Same thing as Fran Brown. Those are coaches that you want. Fran Brown. I think Cignetti's in a tier of his own, but Brown is closer to Cignetti than Swinney at this point. You want those coaches. They hold their players accountable. They don't try to hold the media or things they can't control accountable. Clemson has no identity. I don't know what their standard is anymore. They say it's high, but Swinney has been saying in his press conferences that they hold too high standards to Clemson. So that makes me think that he knows this team isn't as good as they were cracked up to be preseason, and he's trying to save face a little bit. Clemson's lines of scrimmage are super disappointing, and I don't know what's happened to Cade Klubnik. What happened to him? If someone can explain to me what happened to Cade Klubnik and be right about it, I will give you $1 million. Of course, that's sarcasm. I don't have that. But even if I was being serious, I don't think anyone could explain what's happened. He actually looks like he's worse than he was last year. And part of that, I think, is because you don't have Phil Maffa, so the rushing attack isn't as good. And I also think part of that is there's a drop-off at linebacker, so the defense is probably just as good as it was last year. And also, I think some of it's buying into his own stock. I think that Clemson got high off their own supply. So, I don't know. But what a cataclysmic failure by Dabo Swinney and Clemson. And as for Fran Brown and Syracuse, If Syracuse can keep Fran Brown, they're going to be a good ACC team. If not, Fran Brown is going to end up at a better job and have tremendous success. Thank you so much for watching this segment on college football with Sam. Before we close out here, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this video around, comment your thoughts and analysis down below so I can read them and reply to them if I have the time. Members get priority replies, but I try to reply to everyone. And also hit the notification bell for the channel and also for any team playlists you are interested in. If you want to support the channel financially, you can always super chat me in the comment section, but I prefer that you sign up as a paid member of the Patreon page or as a YouTube member, or that you can purchase some wonderful merchandise to represent us. I'll see you all soon and have a fantastic day.